Just before we get into this video, guys, if you want to follow me on social media, on Twitter and Instagram, the links are here. And if you also want to support me on Patreon as well and help out my channel, that would be absolutely awesome as well. But let's get on with the video. Hey guys, it's Wingy here and welcome to a brand new video. Now, since everybody is talking about Infinity War and how amazing it is, I thought I'd talk about DC instead. I think I did a video a while ago talking about some Marvel villains that I'd like to see on the big screen, in the MCU at least, and now I want to talk about some DC villains that I personally want to see on the big screen in their extended universe. Now, the likelihood of these characters actually appearing on the big screen, some it seems quite likely, others maybe not so much. But hey, they're just my suggestions and they're who I want to see. So let's get into it. Now, I know at some stage we are going to be getting a Green Lantern movie, and I believe it is a Green Lantern Corps movie. So it's not just going to focus on one version of Green Lantern. I want to see a bunch of them, and for that reason I'm going to go with Parallax, aka the Hal Jordan version, not the weird shitty cloud thing that we had in the Green Lantern movie from like 2011. Now, the reason why I want to see Hal as the villain is because it would be a nice little nod, I guess, as to how that last movie did, even though I quite like it. I did a video defending it. But also because for comic book fans, we love Hal Jordan as Green Lantern, but for me, he's had his time now. It'd be interesting to see a different version of Green Lantern portrayed on the big screen. Personally, I'd like to see the likes of John Stewart, maybe even Kyle Rayner, maybe not Guy Gardner, I'm not a fan of him, but preferably John Stewart for me, as he is my favourite Green Lantern. It'd be cool to see another Green Lantern take on another human version of the Green Lantern, but obviously he's evil now. You don't necessarily have to have John Stewart start off and have his origin story as Green Lantern, but you don't necessarily have to have him know who Hal was personally. You could have him be aware of Hal, but to see someone who was like this perfectly reputable Green Lantern who really served the cause well just falls so far from grace, I think could be a really interesting plot point. It'd be also cool to see a version of Hal Jordan that isn't young. It'd be quite interesting to see a similar dynamic to what they've done with Batman, as to have someone who's older, except Batman isn't evil now, but we could have Hal as evil. And I think it would make up for the parallax that we did have in the Green Lantern movie, which I did defend, but that bit was shit. I just really want to see Green Lantern again. I really, really do. And I mean, we know that Green Lantern does already exist in this universe because we saw in Justice League the flashback of the Amazons fighting with the Atlanteans, I think it was. There was a Green Lantern there, so we know that they exist. So we could already have a well-established Green Lantern Corps there with members from Earth having to take on someone who once was one of them. I know Sinestro probably would be the obvious choice, but I think you should save him for a bit. I know they were trying to do that with the first Green Lantern movie, but I think it could really pay off this time. Next, talking about a villain that I really don't think we'll ever get on the big screen, at least as the main front and center villain anyway, and that's Mirror Master in a Flash movie. Now, I know I did just say that it'd be interesting seeing a former Green Lantern fight the current Green Lantern. However, at the minute, I am kind of sick of seeing a hero face off against somebody who is pretty much the exact same character as them, but bad. We saw it in Ant-Man, we saw it in Black Panther, we saw it in Man of Steel. It is kind of getting a bit repetitive now. With Parallax, you at least have the personal aspect, so it's slightly different. But instead of seeing Reverse Flash in a Flash movie, as much as I love him, I don't think you should start off with him, especially since that we have the CW show. Like, for the first 3 seasons, it's pretty much just speedsters against the Flash, and it does get really boring and repetitive seeing the Flash go up against essentially the Flash. You know, in the TV show we've seen Savitar, we've seen The Rival, we've seen Zoom, we've seen Reverse Flash. Just go with something different. And I think Mirror Master would be a good shout because 1, he's one of my favourite Flash villains. 2, the way they did him in the CW show was absolutely terrible. He was just some dude in a shirt and tie. And 3, visually this could be very, very interesting. You know, obviously the Flash does rely on his speed, but how do you catch somebody who can just disappear into a mirror or a puddle or a reflection, anything like that? It's a really interesting thing that you could do. I don't think the costume for Mirror Master would translate too well, but there's something you could do with it, I guess. He's not really a well-known Flash villain in the sense of a Reverse Flash, a Gorilla Grodd, a Captain Cold, someone like that. For the general audience, I mean. So maybe establish him here and make him prove himself. I'd love that. He's always been one of my favourites since I was growing up, and I think, like I say, visually it could be a really interesting movie, seeing the Flash trying to chase something that he can't really catch, that isn't a speedster for once. What's the likelihood of him appearing? Probably nil. If anything, the only equivalent I can think of would be like Shocker in Spider-Man Homecoming, like that level villain. Personally, I want to see him take front and center stage. And then finally, a villain that I think we've been longing for on the big screen, especially after how Jim Carrey portrayed him, and that's the Riddler in a Batman movie. We know Batman is going to be having a solo movie soon, whether that's with Ben Affleck as Batman or Jake Gyllenhaal or somebody else, we don't know. Obviously, people would want to see the Joker, but we've seen quite a fair bit of him now. Since 1989, we've had about 3 different Jokers. so I think maybe give him a break for a bit. As good as he is, I still like the Joker, but maybe the Riddler, because what we could end up with is an actual detective Batman movie. It just makes perfect sense. You've got this guy that leaves riddles and leaves clues everywhere, and you've got the greatest detective ever who's trying to solve something. Match made in heaven. You could really do like a film noir style Batman movie. Batman should actually use his brain and his detective skills for once. We haven't really seen too much of that on the big screen, and I think it could be an interesting dynamic. Yeah, we get that he's a great fighter and there's some awesome action sequences, and you can still have that, but have a real sort of thriller for a Batman movie. That could work so well, especially with Gotham being the type of city that it is. It's the perfect setting. Personally, I hope it's still Ben Affleck, but if not, it would be a great way to introduce a new version of Batman to establish themselves, or for Ben Affleck to firmly establish that he is the Batman. And instead of getting the weird sort of zany over-the-top Jim Carrey version of the Riddler, we can actually get a full-on methodical Riddler, someone who actually thinks everything out. I know a lot of people say that they want Neil Patrick Harris as the Riddler, but personally I don't think he'd be right for the vision of Riddler that I've got. I don't know who I would get. I mean, obviously you want someone slightly light-hearted, but I want someone who's quite stern and very, I don't know, just very, whatever I'm doing now. Meticulous, that's the word that I'm looking for. Someone who can do meticulous very well. I don't know who that would be. Maybe it is Neil Patrick Harris, I don't know. But those are just 3 of my suggestions as to villains that I want to see on the big screen in the DC universe at some point. Like I say, we're probably not. We're probably just going to get the Joker again, probably Reverse Flash, and probably Sinestro for those respective movies, but we can dream. But in the comments, guys, let me know what you think. Do you want to see any of the villains that I mentioned? If not, which villains do you want to see on the big screen in the DC expanded universe for whatever hero, whether it's the ones that I mentioned or Aquaman, Wonder Woman, whoever. Whatever you think, let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you leave a like on it, subscribe for more, and also my social media and Patreon are in the description below, so if you want to support me on any of them, then I would love you forever. So, until next time guys, take care of yourselves, goodbye.